Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Women on Top. And today I'm just so honored. And honestly, I've been looking forward to having this conversation with my guest who's sitting here with me, Molly Armanino. Molly is a world-class freeride skier from South Lake Tahoe. And she really has this amazing, fearless approach. We're going to get into all of that here in a second. She's really got some competitive roots, and she's got this habit of skiing routes that no one else has really dared to tackle. And that's helped propel her into some things like becoming a Freeride World Tour podium, and really has cemented her as one of the most compelling big mountain athletes of her generation. Beyond the competition and all that she's doing in the skiing world, she really channels her deep love for the mountains into some storytelling and has also a passion around climate advocacy. So we're going to get into all of that. But more than that, I'm just really, again, honored and deeply blessed to be joined by you today, Molly. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Valerie. Wow, that was an amazing intro. Thank you. I'm flattered.
I'd love to kind of just honestly dive into, I want to know more about this skiing world. And just, you seem like such a, doing some research on you as I do with all my guests. And I was like, gosh, you seem like such a kind of a daredevil and like a risk taker. And you just have like this grit about you. So I'm wondering if that's something that you think is like, was that just born in you from the very beginning? Or is that like something that you developed over time where you're like, gosh, I'm going to take more and more risks. And that's, something that kind of gets your adrenaline going. What was that journey like for you?
That's a good question. I think I've been, like there's, I'm pretty sure I've had this in me throughout my entire life. Just like from a child standpoint. It Yeah, luckily, I think my parents got us into ski racing, all 3 of us when we were really young, and that was, I think, a really good way to channel this this extra energy that we had, although I think out of the 3 of us, I was the one to take it to the next level, and when I wasn't skiing, I was, like in high school at least, like, every time I wasn't skiing, I was trying to figure out what adrenaline rush thing I can do, whether that's, like, going and, I don't know, egging houses or, like, we would do all sorts of, like, hood rat shit when I was a kid, and, always sneaking out, like, tell my mom I'm going to the movies, but we'll go, like, sneak out and go do some, like, I don't know, some mischievous things, and I ended up going to therapy, just trying to figure out, like, what it is, like, why I'm like this, I think, and she ended up saying it's just, like, a really intense level of ADHD.
Oh, really?
So, I mean, I don't know, like, if you just go to therapy and it seems like a cop out to just go to therapy and get diagnosed with ADHD, but she said a lot of that kind of, like, energy, or I don't know how to explain it, like, this, like, need for adrenaline constantly, yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
really, like, sure, but it's definitely been a pattern throughout my entire life, and when I'm not skiing, when I wasn't skiing, I went to college, and yeah, it took, like, maybe 5 or 6 years off of skiing after I got done racing, and channeled that into other sports, like, sailing was really cool for me, and longboarding, and I lived in Santa Cruz, so, yeah, so I luckily, like, I think I had this outlet of, like, sports to kind of harness that energy, and then, yeah, it kinda never seemed to go away, like, it came back to, like, coming back into the mountains and realizing how much I loved being there and like how much I love the mountains and then also it gave me this like access to release this like kind of this addictive adrenaline that I think just gets more addictive as you do it, you know, with at least with skiing. It's like there's this we've been talking a lot this year about flow state and I think there's this level of like this like a good mix of adrenaline and flow state that kind of combine to give you this like dopamine release that
Mm.
I think a lot of skiers and a lot of athletes can are it's a motivator for a lot of athletes. So
You know, it's interesting what you said about the therapist and some of the feedback there. Um, I was watching, the climber who recently scaled that huge building, Alex, whatever his name is, I can't remember, but this
hmm
climber, and they were saying his brain has a little bit of a different setup than most of us who have like this fear, this like innate like fear. And he does other techniques too to like help manage that during the climb. But it's making me kind of think of you a little bit. Are there things that you do that have helped you manage fearful situations, or do you kind of just not sense it in the same way that maybe most of us do?
no, I do think I feel fear is really similar to most people.
Yeah.
I I think what I think sometimes like the adrenaline that you get from something, for me at least, like it's like bigger than the fear that I have. So like, I
Mm.
am scared, but like the outcome, if it works, is like more rewarding than kind of like just sitting there being scared, if that makes sense. So like, yes, I
Yeah.
feel nervous and I'm scared and it's like not a good feeling to be afraid. But as soon as for me, like if, as soon as I just go and just kind of like I said, just get into this like blackout flow state, the fear goes away. And then if it works out, which it doesn't always work out for me particularly, but like if it works out, this like feeling of kind of like accomplishment and success for a line or doing something that you didn't think you could do or that you were afraid to do, and then like successfully achieving that, that outcome kind of outweighs that negative fear feeling that you have or that I have.
Yeah.
It is hard to sometimes I think, for me, it's hard to distinguish what is just fear that's not what is fear versus like intuitive don't
Mm.
go mentality. So like what is just regular fear when like the likelihood of success in achieving that line and like the likelihood of you being okay despite your fear is great is more likely that you'll be okay than not,
Yeah.
which I rely on a lot. Like, which I probably shouldn't. A lot of people make fun of me, but I'm like, okay, if I crash here, like, it'll be okay. Or I'll be like, I can't crash here because it won't be okay. And that's when I'm like super focused.
Yeah.
But there is like this level of intuition that I would love to like really be able to tune into, and I'm trying as I get older, which is like, what's just like, what is my fear of like what's going to happen, and what's like a real fear of like listening to your intuition that something's wrong, that you shouldn't do this, like a lot of that in my world has to do with avalanche
Mhm.
danger, and just like other environmental factors that you have to pay attention to. So I think fear is a really important tool to use when you're out in the backcountry, and skiing. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
love I love how you just phrase that, and how do I use it as a tool, kind of like as my navigation system as I'm, navigating
Yeah.
mountains. But I'm also thinking of, for the listener who's like, I'm navigating my life, whatever that might be. Are there some tools that you have used, or just some techniques or things that have helped you get a little more in tune with that intuition? It's one of those things that where, as you were talking, I'm like, gosh, I don't know if we ever get like perfectly in tune with our intuition. Maybe some people have, I don't know, but I wonder if you've, come up with some things that have helped you kind of quiet the noise and maybe get more you know, in alignment with that intuition?
I wish that I had a better answer. I think I'm also trying to just I think this will be like a lifelong goal of mine to really tune into my intuition. I think my problem is like I can feel my intuition, but I don't always listen to it. But I think like one of the things that I've noticed, and I guess I'm pulling one example. It was like I was out in the backcountry a few years ago. I was actually just talking about this today. Um, and I got like really bad frostbite on my toe and ended up losing my toe because I. But that whole trip,
Oh
I had
my
this like
gosh.
underlying anxiety. I know. Yeah, that's a whole other story. But basically, like I lost my toe, but the whole trip that I felt, it's like it was this, like, underlying anxiety that I had that I couldn't name, like and that's what I've noticed with
Mm,
things that I with things that, like, my intuition kind of, like, tells me is that, like, there's this level of unease that is hard to describe and hard to name yourself, but if you can kind of recognize and, like, feel this whatever it might be, if it's just not aligned with your truth, like, and if it's not the right thing to do, like, you know because there's this, like, uncertainty in your bones, I feel like, and sometimes like, at that I remember specifically at that time, I remember closing my eyes and, like, there was this voice in the back of my head that said, "Don't go." And like I said, like, I don't always listen to that. Like, I often don't listen to that because, like, I get caught up, I'm like, "No, I wanna go on this trip. No, I already have the plan. I already have the flight. I already, like, paid all of this money. Like, I'm already doing it. Like, I'm not gonna do it."
right.
At the same time, I had this feeling that something bad is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it would be really powerful to be able to pay attention to um, those, like, the kind of, like, bodily functions and, like, this, like, voice in the back of your head. I talked to a sports psychologist about trying to listen to your intuition and what feels
Yeah.
right, and he did a nice, like, overview of, like, okay, you're like, he basically asked me, "What do I want for dinner?" And he was like, "Okay, what does your head want?" That's, like, what your immediate thoughts are. I was like, "Okay, salad." I don't know, or, like, I don't know, cheeseburger, like, a hamburger, I don't know. And then he's like, "Okay, what does your heart want?" That's, like, your values and, like, what you feel is right. And I'm like, "Okay, well, I don't really like eating meat for, environmental reasons, so I'll change it to a salad," you know? And then he was like, "Okay, well, what does your gut feel? Like, what do you
Mm,
want, really?" And then I eventually was like, pizza, a good mix of between the 2. Um,
yeah,
so that was a good tool. I sometimes go back to that, to just,
I
like,
love
your head
that.
is your frontal lobe, what your, like yeah, immediate thoughts are. Your heart is what you feel is right, your values, and your gut is somewhere in between those 2 things. So,
I love that.
yeah.
I think that's really applicable. I feel like people can use that example. That's so perfect. As you're talking and describing this, it just kind of made me curious. Do you consider yourself like a spiritual person? Is there something there that kind of guides you, or what's your belief system there?
Hmm. I am pretty spiritual, but what I'm realizing is, yeah, I'm spiritual in the way of like I've been doing a lot of like I believe a lot in like past lives and kind of
Mm,
like growth as a human spirit, and then that's like as the extent of my spirituality is like I do
yeah.
believe that as souls, like, our body forms are just tools to, like, grow as, like, a spirit. That being said, like, a guidance factor, what I'm starting to realize is, like, there's there is yes, your intuition can guide you to kind of, like, guide you on the right path if you can listen to that. But at the same time, like, decisions are just decisions and choices are just choices, and what happens just, like, is something that just happens, and the paths that you take are just the paths that you take, Like, it's never like, neither path is good or bad. Um, the paths are just what happened and what are. and yes, you could have taken a different path and it could have led you to like this different circumstance, um, but I don't believe that there's like a kind of like a right path to take or a guided path that you should be like led to because I think any path that you take is a good learning experience. As much to my demise because I have a lot of regret. Like I do have a lot of I deal a lot with like FOMO and decision making and like I should have done this, I should have done that, like I should have stayed home, I should have this. It's like it's the demise of my existence. It's like my is choices that I make. But I really like this. I like this folklore. It's like a little. I think it's like a Buddhist story, but it's basically. I think it's like pretty well known. But it's like this guy has this kid, and the kid falls out of the building and breaks his legs, and everybody around him is like, "How terrible! Like how unlucky! Like that your kid broke his legs." I don't know if you heard this story.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Yeah, maybe." And then, a few years later, they try and recruit him for the war, but they can't because he was injured previously. And then everyone's like, "How lucky you are!" And he's like, "Yeah, maybe." And it's just like, I guess that's the extent of my spirituality is like, what I'm trying to harness in my life is that nothing is good nor bad, and things are just what they are, and they turn out as they will. So it's hard to grapple with because you do want a level of control in your life, and
Yeah.
it's hard to kind of let that go.
Yeah.
So
I do know the story. It's kind of a great story. And there, when I first read it, I was a little frustrated by it, to be honest, because it's like, I want the happy ending. I want to know that there's like a right path almost like that's what my brain wants. But the reality of it, to your point, is like it's such a beautiful message of that who really knows what's serving you or what's not. And maybe
yeah,
thing is lucky, maybe, but maybe not. And we don't really know.
yeah,
And I think I have kind of landed where you have, where it's like there's infinite amount of lives we could live. There's like infinite possibility. And maybe we just kind of have to choose the decision that feels the best to us at some level right now. And that'll be a learning lesson or not. And so I think you had said at one point, and correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of something to the effect of like the mountains owe you nothing, like the mountains owe me nothing. And, or maybe I'm making that up, but I'm curious, if, what is it that has continued to pull you back? Because that thought can be kind of like the story you just shared of it's both a little bit maybe depressing at moments, but maybe it's also liberating. And so I'm curious to hear more about what is it that continues to bring you back out there?
yeah. That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, when I'm out there and that idea that like it's like for me I feel like it's the most free will you possibly can experience. Like there's nothing that's going to save you
Mm,
out there. Like there's nothing that's going to like help you make your way through the mountains. Like it's just you. It's just you and your body and a few tools that you have, and it's all on you. Like, you have your partner and you guys can make
yeah,
good decisions on your intuition, like we were talking about, and tune into, like, your experience and your wisdom out there, which will help guide you out there, but ultimately, like, you are 100% reliant on yourself to move, and I think there's this feeling of
yeah.
independence that I feel so empowered by when I'm out there. When I was younger, it was particularly being a woman, like I felt
Mm,
really empowered being the only I felt really empowered, like, and it had nothing really to do with that, but like just like I don't need a boyfriend, I don't need a partner, like to guide me. I like I don't need a man to like bring me out here. Like I just am out here. Like I'm doing this because I want to do this and I want to be out here and this is my own free will and my own independence and my own like charge that I have for me.
yeah.
And I think that is what brings me out there, keeps me going out there, and, like and then on top of that, like, that energy that I was talking about getting, I think the combination of all of that just, like, creates this like really like strong sense of independence and strength that is hard to find elsewhere for me.
There's kind of no other experience that would teach you that kind of like self-reliance, that
Yeah.
self-confidence.
Well, I was just thinking that like
Yeah.
I know I was thinking about how that applies to not some even maybe I mean maybe not just skiing, like, and I was trying to think of that as a perspective even outside of sports. You can get that same feeling in like your corporate job, like, and I think that's kind of this like wave of I have a lot of friends that I went to college with that so crazy independent and successful in like their lives and careers. And I wonder if that's like a similar feeling that they have and a similar motivation that they have. Like my friend's a bioinformatics, almost CEO of this like crazy bioinformatics company. And she's like, I can sense that she has these feelings as well. So I think I would hope that that feeling applies like in all realms, not just like adventurous sports. I would hope that for yeah, women in gen particularly
Yeah.
women, but in this case, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't wonder if it comes a little bit from kind of like following that guidance system we're talking about, like following your intuition a little bit, but then also like trusting when something is both scary and exciting and knowing that that might be, kind of a sign to go pursue and push the envelope a little bit. And I'm just thinking about for myself, in the pandemic, I traveled the US and I had never really traveled, but I got this opportunity at the time. We weren't coming back to the office for a while because everything was shut down. So my boss was like, just go if you want to go. And so I, took my life on the road. That's how I met Luke. And, I just started Airbnb-ing across the country. For me, that was scary. For someone else, probably like you, that wouldn't be scary. But for me, it was, but in a really good, positive way. And so I just kind of am thinking about how sometimes we need to trust those like, ooh, this feels scary, but the exciting, and maybe you kind of touched on this earlier, like, but the adrenaline and the excitement and the value I might get from this, it feels like it's taking over more than
Yeah.
the fear. And so maybe that's kind of, for the listener and for all of us, like maybe we have to trust that
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah, totally. And I like I said, like, yeah, it's hard to tell what's intuitively telling you not to do something and what is just fear that's holding you back. But I think that a lot of the times when you're feeling stuck or don't think it's the right like you're scared to leave something that's comfortable, often you what I've found is like often when you just take that dive and you jump into the water, like it usually opens up more opportunities and like a lot more growth than you would get just staying in something that's
Yeah.
comfortable for anybody who is listening. I think if
Yeah.
you are, like if you are debating about just taking that next step and like my mom always, I think what helped me a lot with that kind of thing is like whenever I was in a job that I didn't like or doing something I didn't like, it was always just like, okay, we'll quit. It was never like "You have to do this, like, you have to follow this through, you have to this or that." It was always like, "Okay, you don't like it, then quit." And I just always had this mentality of, like, I can just quit, and do something else.
I like that a lot. Like sometimes I think we demonize giving up, like a quitting or giving up, but sometimes it's not. It's like actually freeing and it's opening the
Yeah.
next door to say, you know what, this actually, I get to change my mind. And this isn't working out, or this isn't this season of my life that I want to keep doing
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And maybe you come back to it, right? Like maybe there's no saying that you can't come back to your hometown or you can't come back to the hobby you were just doing or your career, but maybe it's not for now. And maybe you were supposed to learn a different lesson, right? And so I kind of like giving that permission slip to women out there to say, you don't have to stay
Yeah.
in this thing. You actually
Yeah.
get to change
Yes.
your mind,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It kind of ties into something that I think you were talking about. So for listeners, you need to go check out. There's basically like a film that called Slopes of Change, right? That you
Yeah.
created. Um, and there's kind of this moment where you're articulating how and really it's like right at the beginning, I think, where you're like, if you could just like perfect your skiing or just like reach new heights or just kind of nail all of these next levels, that somehow then that would lead you to this like plateau, this beautiful mountaintop of like healing and happiness. And I think so many of us, we are doing that. And I think it might even be a little bit unconscious where we're like, oh, I know that success isn't about the title or the next thing, but yet we're driving toward that. And we kind of just feel like there must be something else like on
on
this
the
next
end.
plateau of like, oh, that's got to be better,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And I'm wondering what you learned like working toward all of these mountaintops, so to speak, and how do you approach it now? Or do you have more peace around that?
Um, I think, yeah, like, yeah, it's fun to, like, go back and be,
Yeah.
because that movie I came out about 2 years came out last year, but I filmed it 2 years ago. So as we were making the film, I was going through all of this, like, at the time. And reflecting back, like, 2 years later, I just am realizing that, and I don't know if this is like, if this also is the same for somebody who's in like a corporate job, but I've made it for me in my ski career, like I've made it, like on paper, I have
Yeah.
done it all. And
Yeah.
at the same time, there's never been a mountaintop that I've been like, "Yep, cool. I did it. I'm accomplished. I'm here now." It's just like I joke about, and it's not a healthy thing, and I'm not like saying this as like a good thing, but like I joke about I'll never be happy. Like I won a comp last year, and I wasn't even like I was just like, "Oh, I could have done this differently," or "I don't like how I skied this." I like, got a film segment in TGI. I was like, I don't know, like it was, we didn't get a lot of filming there, and I didn't get, like, the longest segment and this and that, and, like, and I think this year what I really wanted to embrace, and what I think has been actually quite challenging to do, but I'm still trying, is just, like, experiencing the and it sounds so cliché, but, like, experiencing, like, what is happening, because I will never reach this point of pure accomplishment. Like, I will never feel satisfied with what I'm doing, and the only like, I will never feel satisfied with this, like, with this box I'm checking, I guess, is what I'm realizing. I will only find
So good.
satisfaction, like, in the very moment and day to day of what I'm doing, and I really wanted to try my hardest to experience that, and this has been a big challenge for me this year, because
Yeah.
I get a lot of, like, fear of missing out, especially around skiing and powder and stuff like that, and, like, I'm leaving a lot of good snow to go ski some shitty snow somewhere else in a foreign country, not knowing where I am, and not really, like, thinking I could be doing all of these other things, but it's like I need to look at where I am and just take it in, because that is the experience that will give me the satisfaction. It's not what I'm trying to accomplish, is what I'm realizing. And
Yeah.
I thought that in AK a little, or reflecting back, I skied in Alaska and last year, and my whole goal as a professional skier was to get paid to ski in Alaska. And I did it. I was there. I didn't necessarily get paid to do it, but I was there, and I was filming, and I could go to any mountaintop in Alaska I wanted to and ski down it, and I picked any line out of, like, an entire range, and it was, like, the pinnacle of skiing, and instead of looking around and being like, "This is insane, like, these mountains are psychedelic and crazy, and, like, I'm here," I was up on top of the mountains, like, being like, "Oh, I hope that I do well, and I hope I get this shot, and I hope I can jump off this cliff okay," and, like, and, like, yeah, I was scared too, like, I wasn't there's a lot going on, and what wasn't going on was this, like, pure experience of, like, look at what is happening at this very
Mm.
moment, and I feel like if I can harness that, that's where my happiness and satisfaction is gonna come from, and
Yeah.
a work in progress for me, and it's been, and I cannot say that I have accomplished that yet, but it's a goal of mine, for the rest of my career. So, yeah.
I'm so glad that we're touching on this. I feel like this is so applicable to me selfishly, but also just to so many that I talk to. So I'm really grateful that you're willing to talk about it so openly and be so transparent of like, this is, I haven't figured it out yet, but this is something I'm really working on. And I love talking with people like you who are just like these dynamic women who have, so many like basically trophies behind them. And they've done these massive things, accomplished success in so many ways, and yet are grappling with this thing that so many of us are also still grappling with. So I yeah, I've been wondering this for myself too, because I'm very much that like achiever mentality of what's next? How
Mhm.
can I do this better?
Mhm.
How, what am I living into my whole potential, whatever the
Yeah.
hell that even means?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
am I living into my highest self? And then I've read a book recently that is from a hospice nurse, and she was talking about how the moments that really matter to the people who are transitioning to whatever's next are these little minor things of, just remembering like eating French fries with their kids, in a
Yeah.
parking lot somewhere, and like laughing and just going to the grocery store with like your friend and just being silly and shopping at Trader Joe's, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it just had me thinking of like, oh, I need to redefine this for myself. And it's going to be so hard for my brain to really,
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
But I really want to. And I think that's kind of similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, I think so too. Like that's kind of exactly what I was saying is like, yeah, it's these little moments that is where you're going to find your that happiness that
Yeah.
you're seeking like through because I think yeah, like we're all a lot of us are very motivated human beings that like w- want to like progress their career, their self, their high like you were saying, their higher selves
Yeah.
and all of these things. And it's like what I'm like I was saying is like what I'm realizing is that's not working for me. But those moments of like, yeah, like really taking in like fun experiences with your friends and laughing and like just like really understanding like the importance of those like micro moments of pure happiness, I think is
Yeah.
like is the thing that's gonna bring you to that level. And
Yeah.
I and kinda like what you were saying, like when you asked about spirituality, I think that is a little bit like the heart of, being present and like a lot of Buddhist kind of thoughts and a lot of like kind of this more East Asian kind of religion of like being
Mhm.
present and here and now.
Did losing Sam also teach you some of that? What were, because I know how heavy that was and probably still is. I'm curious, what are some of the maybe the unexpected lessons that you're carrying with you?
Yeah. I think knowing that reflecting back on the moments that I've shared with Sam, which have been quite a lot, like, we lived together right when he died, we had, at that point, lived together for the last 5 years. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and so I spent a lot of time with him, which I'm so super grateful for, and, I think just, like, being able to recognize, like, the heaviness and, like, value of every moment that you have with someone and something, and even if it's just yourself, like, the like, the weight of what is and it kinda is exactly what we're talking about, like, the value of what is now with that person is so meaningful because it nothing is forever, and things end, and people die, and it sounds cliche, but, like, living in this, like, idea that, like, every moment counts. I wouldn't I even, like, appreciate like, with Sam, like, I even appreciated the fights that we had, and, like, I even appreciated
Mhm.
the anger that we felt for each other and the yelling and and I yeah, and, like, every moment that I had with him, like, I look back and I just, like, value so much, and I can't say I wish that I had I can't say that I wish that I knew to, take it in, like, at the time, but I definitely now recognize, like, how important those moments I had with him were, not having known
Yeah.
that they weren't gonna continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is still hard to grapple with, but I now, like, just like you were saying, just those, like, little tiny moments that you have with somebody, um, are so important to just, like, understand that is what life is, and to really appreciate that for what it is, and
Yeah.
yeah, and know that everything is temporary.
It's it's so wild to me. Like sometimes just the fact that life is so fragile. And sometimes I find myself just getting a random coffee at the store and carrying on life as usual. And at the same time, it's such a weird duality to exist in as a human and to know how in one moment everything can change. Um,
Yeah.
I wonder for those who are going through stages of grief, I've, got a friend who just lost, somebody close to her and just I know people experience grief in different ways, but are there any things that you have learned, as far as the relationship that you have with that grief? Because I think it's something we don't really talk about. Um, and I wonder what advice you might have for someone who's working their way through that right now.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I am consistently navigating I'm finding that I will consistently be navigating loss throughout my entire life. Um, and it's been like loss for me has been like this seemingly consistent theme. Um, when I was 20, I was in a really bad car accident. I was driving, lost my best friend. Um,
Oh my
I
goodness.
know, and she died, and so from 20 years old, I've dealt with this, like, feeling of this, like, idea of, like, loss and tragedy, and from that, I don't know, like, what I realized, but from that moment, I remember everybody being like, "Oh my gosh, you're so strong, you're getting through this and, like and this and that, and, like, I'm so proud of you for doing this and making it through something so tragic," and I just remember in my head being like, "What do you mean I'm strong? Like, I don't have there's no option I'm not strong." I maybe I could
Mhm.
be strong at some point from this, but, like, right now, like, strength isn't what I have, like, this isn't something there's no other option to, like, other than to get through this. Like, I don't have, this, like, power inside me that, like, is helping me get through this. The only thing that's going on is that, like, that this is happening, and this is there I have no other choice other than to just exist through this. Um,
Mm.
and that was something I really remember from that accident, and I got a little older, and then, yeah, 10 years go by, and Sam died, and it was a really similar circumstance, like, we lived together, and same thing, like, one day he's there, and then the next day he's gone, and, similar, like, this, like, idea of, like, "I'm strong, I can get through this." That wasn't as, like, that theme wasn't as present, but with this, it was more just, like, this idea that my feelings around this, like, it's not gonna ever get better, it's just gonna change, and
Mm.
I think knowing that it's, like, not having this fairy tale idea that, like, it's gonna be okay, 'cause it never will be okay, but the feelings around it are gonna consistently evolve and things will change, and I think it's worth sticking around for that. 'Cause I think, with grief, a lot of people I at least at that point had gone really hard into I was very depressed, and after, like, the first car accident and then experiencing this again and a few other things, like, I just was like, "What?" I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm so tired. Like, my soul is so tired, and it's like, I don't know why, like, especially because I got really into spirituality and, like, past lives and stuff because of with Sam and just trying to figure out, like, what it is. Like, did I choose these lessons for my life? Like, did my higher self want me to learn something from loss? And is there something I'm not learning that I should be learning? Is this why this happened again?
Yeah.
And my mom kept telling me, like, "This didn't happen to you, Molly, this happened to him. Like, this didn't happen because you were bad or this has nothing to do with you, this happened." And now what I'm learning is that my feelings around this and Sam is just it's gonna be like a constant evolving experience that I think I'm graduating to going from extremely depressed and not even really wanting to bear through it to, like, being willing at least to stick around to figure out what that change looks like. Um,
Mm.
and so for people going through loss, like, it's just it's never gonna go. It's sad and hard to say that it'll never go away, but it does change. Your feelings around it, your emotional the pain changes. It goes
Mm.
it moves around. So, yeah.
That was really, I feel like that was such a powerful lesson. And just so much is there. And I'm so glad you shared, and just thank you for your willingness to be so vulnerable and share. I think this is the kind of conversation that I always look to have, not because of the hardness and the heaviness of it, but because of how applicable it is. And again, from people that have had a lot of loss, they've shared some of the similar sentiments around, people saying, you're so strong, or time heals all wounds, or
Uh-huh.
whatever. And again, just chatting with a friend yesterday, and she said, it doesn't heal all wounds. Like, I am not
Yeah.
healed. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not there, and it might never be there. And I think just the recognition of it doesn't go away, but to your point of the it evolves and the pain changes and things change form, and to be willing to witness what's to come from that is such a beautiful way to articulate your relationship with grief. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. Like, I'm gonna definitely hold on to that for myself too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
I just came up with that. I was put on the spot with the question, but I mean, I think I mean, it's the human experience.
And we all are gonna experience different forms of grief, and certainly we can't go through life without that, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
like this
exactly.
unfortunate thing that we're going to experience on different levels, in different ways. But I really love how you articulated all of that. I wonder, what do you think? And this might be a little bit of a hard question, but it just popped in my mind. I'm wondering what you think Sam would want you to know now, or your friends.
Yeah.
Do you ever kind of get those like gut hits of like, ooh, I feel like they would want me to know this, or just kind of, I don't know.
I I think yeah. I think that's, like, one of the things that I'm trying. I think what I'm really struggling with trying to figure out because, like, going back to, like, when you asked about spiritual, I after Sam died, I read this book called A Soul's Journey. I don't know if you've read
Mm,
this book, but,
I've heard of it.
um, yeah,
Mhm.
and it kinda, like it's a little woo-woo, like, some of it's like, "Oh my god," I don't know, it's, like, intense, but, basically, this sports psychologist hypnotizes his clients and interviews them on, like, their in between lives, like, what happens in between lives, and a lot of they all said the same thing. Say and then, like, he kinda laid it out in this, like, chronological order of, like, what happens when you die and this and that, but one of the things that they all this theme is that you have these soulmates, and it's
Mm.
not like I think you have there's this, like, hallmark idea of one soulmate that you have, but I believe that you have many soulmates here, to teach you lessons, and you teach them lessons, and you have these contracts with with
Mm.
them and with many soulmates, and these contracts you sign, and it's like, and I'm trying to figure out what contract I signed with Sam, like um what it is that we talked about in our in between lives,
Yeah.
um and I don't know, I think he's was my um just like knowing him and how he kind of helped me navigate a lot of my struggles, like, um around, like, what we talked about around kind of this, like, crazy sort of, like, it was, like, a lot I had, like, this, like, overconfident kind of, like, adrenaline junkie type mindset, and he really, like, toned it down quite a bit, like, he was always really scared, especially when we skied together, he was always like, "Don't do that," or, "Ah," like, "Ah." Um, he'd always be at the bottom, like, "Are you sure you're gonna do that?" And I would just be like, "Yeah, I've got it. It's cool." And, um, and I think, like, yeah, I mean, I think maybe what he would want me to know is, like, um, that it's okay to it's okay to tone it back a little, and it's okay to just, like, walk through life with a little bit more grace, I think is what he,
Yeah.
has taught me, and he's always been kind of like a very supporting person, with everyone and very uplifting to so many people, and, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think he would want me to know that it's okay to have grace for yourself and for others and for your own trajectory as well, so,
Mm.
yeah.
I love that. I I love kind of the imagery of like what you shared about going together and like him being a little freaked out and you're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think you even shared that he like wanted to have fun and, kind of was always that encourager too of like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to like be the best or like,
Yeah.
it's okay if it doesn't work out. Like, just have a good time. And
Yeah.
I love that too. Like that's such a great dynamic and certainly I feel like there's definitely things you're probably carrying forward, maybe, whether you kind of realize it or not, but I feel like it seems like he definitely left such a impression, not just on you, but with so many people that he touched. So,
Yeah, he really did. Yeah, I think he changed a lot of people's lives, when he died and before that as well. Um, what I've noticed, like, and again, kinda going back for people who have lost others, it's like, it doesn't I've the relationships that form after you lose somebody are incredibly powerful and are so important to hold on to, like, my brother at the time had his, um so me and my ex-boyfriend and Sam and his girlfriend all lived together,
mm,
and me and Sam's girlfriend never really we didn't really get along that well, like, we just kind of I think there's a little bit of, like, like,
yeah,
what's the word? Like, who does he
yeah,
care about more? Like,
yeah.
rivalry a little bit, and Sam died, and um, just kind of we took her in and as, like, a new family member, and she became, like, my sister and I's new sister, um, and and just, like, all tension just, like, went away, and it all just went into, like poured into, like, nothing but, like, compassion and love for one another, and one of the things that I really appreciate about my family as well is that they really took Sam's loss and, like, only was ever kind and only felt and only really
Um,
poured out, like, empathy and love for each other, and I think, like, recognizing, like, the importance of community and the importance of friendship and leaning on each other in like a moment like so tragic can also bring such deep intentional relationships into your life that you otherwise would never have had. So
yeah.
that's like a beautiful outcome, even though it's maybe not the most ideal outcome. And
Yeah.
obviously, like, I'd rather have had Sam in our lives, but
Yeah.
the deepness of relationships that form after that, I think is, yeah, something worth appreciating, I guess.
I think that's so well said. And gosh, it's so true with grief. Maybe that is like sort of a silver lining. Not a silver lining, but just one of the, like you said, one of the biggest blessings that can happen is
Yeah.
the love that can come from it. The love that can
Yeah.
come from like a cut so deep. And I was just sitting here listening to you talk like, oh, I hate that it has to be that way. Like, I hate that we have, like, I feel like we form
Yeah.
these like really rich connections off of pain, kind of. But
Yeah.
it's another example of how both exist in the world. And in a way, it kind of comes back to your story of like, who's to say, I mean, kind of, it just kind of was reminding me of the who's to say kind of what's good or bad. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, like, it's really easy to be like, "That this is bad." Like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
never want, yeah, I mean, it's not good, but
right.
it's also not bad, you know? I mean, it is. It just is.
How much how much love exists in your voice. And I just think it's really powerful for, especially for women, to be able to hear your story and the things that you have done and some of the things that you're navigating real time. One of the things I wanted to dedicate this podcast to was to being able to share some of the things that we're struggling with. Again, like, right now, versus sometimes I've listened to things where it's like, oh, I did struggle with that, but now I'm on the top of the mountain. And I just feel
Yeah.
like there's such beauty in being able to kind of lock arms and to really like hear, but what are you dealing with now? And
Yeah.
so I thank you for being willing to share that, and for being such a leader. Like, whether you see it that way or not, I really do feel like you're such a voice. You're such a powerful testament of what it means to kind of honestly define your own path and to figure it out as you go, and to try things and to get messy with it. And that's what we all could be doing more of. Um, and that's really what inspires me about you. And I just feel like there's such depth to you, Molly. And I'm really grateful for the work that you're doing around being the voice too, and just and continuing your everything that you love and exploring the world in such a meaningful way.
Wow, thanks. Thanks. That is super. That makes me feel great to hear, and yeah, I appreciate this podcast. Like, often I don't feel like I'm able, or it's really, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to, like, be able to get this deep, because it's helpful for me as well to be able to talk about this, and makes me feel really fulfilled to, like, express something like this, because it's not often I get to have conversations like this.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah.
I'm so glad. As kind of like a something you maybe want to share with the women listening, like something maybe that's on your heart right now for women who are in it, who are kind of that achiever mentality, because likely if you're listening to podcasts, like you're probably somewhat type A or like motivated, right? And so what would you want to say collectively to kind of those women out there who are trying to achieve more and also trying to find more meaning?
Yeah, okay. Well, I can share, like, a quick lesson that I learned
Yes.
recently. I often find, I think a lot of, like, high achievers are also very self-deprecating, because you're
Mm.
never satisfied with, like, what you're doing. You never feel like you're good enough, so you're constantly, like, trying to improve and get better, which is, like, ultimately what leads to your success. And I don't think that that should be taken away, but what I was told by my friend, recently, I did pretty bad. I did bad in a competition, and was so mad at myself, like, so mad at, like, what I did, why I did this and that, and I'm complaining about how bad I skied in front of all these younger girls who also did the competition. And she looked at me and she said, "Molly, like, do you understand that you are a role model for these younger girls. And when you talk about yourself and when you say these things about your skiing and how you didn't do this and how you weren't accomplished enough, and what message does that say to them? And
Uh,
it really stuck with me because like I think as like people, type A people, not that I'm not that I'm type A, but like high achiever, if you're a high achiever, I can see that I as well get so wrapped up in my own head about what I'm doing and like how I'm gonna get there. And I don't take the time to recognize that you're also leading an entire generation of women behind you in whatever you're doing. Like, even if that's your corporate job, even if that's, you will always have followers if you are in that leadership position, and to like really be able to like speak highly and like recognize like your own worth in a way that is motivating for other people, I think will not only lift yourself up, but will also lift other people up. And that is a really quick a quick lesson I learned a few weeks ago, and my friend looked at me and told me I need to cut it out. So
But I'm so glad you shared that. I feel like, to your point, a lot of my friends and I know listeners who are building businesses or they're looking to accomplish something or they're publishing books or they're,
yeah,
professional athletes, they are, not necessarily taking a moment to pause and reflect on the fact that you've got people who are literally watching you. And that means they're also watching you in those really unpretty, unsexy moments. And so how are you navigating that?
yeah, yes, yeah,
That
yeah,
is that's hard, because it's really great to have those high highs and you're like, okay, I'm still gonna look at like what's next, but yay, I got the award or I did the thing. But it's much harder to still be positive toward yourself
yes, yes,
when you're like, I completely messed that presentation up.
yep, yeah, yeah,
That did
yes.
not go how I wanted it to go. Uh, and how am I gonna, recognize that and also like not be super self-deprecating? So
Yes. Yes,
I love that.
that's one of the things I'm working on is less self-deprecating. I think all of us, even non-high achievers, but I think especially high achievers are like
Yes,
naturally self-deprecating, and I think it holds us back a little bit. So, yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Okay, so as a closing tradition on this podcast, I ask my guest that I'm interviewing to leave like a quote or a reflection for the next guest, not knowing who it is. So, what I'd like to do is share what my previous guest left for you and then give you the opportunity to just share whatever might be on
Okay.
your heart for the next person that I interview.
Okay.
Um, so it's wild to me, some of the synchronicity with this, but the quote for you is you are not that hard thing that has happened to you. While there's a lot of things in life that have happened that you cannot control, we need to focus on the things that we can and remember that we are the authors of our own story. You might not be able to control that one chapter, but you can control all of the ones that come next.
Wow.
So
They just came up with that at the top of their head. That is insane. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, it was
amazing.
very applicable to her story, and like, I understand why she left that for you, but I
Amazing.
went to like read that before our interview, and I was like, huh, that's it's so funny to me how sometimes these things just,
Play
uh,
in.
yeah, they work out.
Yeah. I think probably along the lines of what we were talking about, which was like don't let fear stop you from taking the next big risk. Don't let
Mm.
don't let fear be the thing that that holds you back. Again, I say that hesitantly because there's this aspect of intuition that is also really important to tune into, but fear is not intuition.
Mm.
And if you can figure out like and if you can like if you can understand fear, then you can understand the difference between fear and intuition. And if you can understand that, you can understand that if it's fear that's holding you back, then don't let that be.
I love that. I love what you said about there's a distinction between fear and intuition. And so if you can make that distinction, then make sure that that's not the thing that's stopping you.
Yeah.
I just have to take a moment and again say thank you. You are incredibly busy and you have a lot going on in your life, and you're like worlds away from me right now as we're recording this. And it is not lost on me that your time is precious and so valuable, but this has just been so valuable for me. I know it's going to be valuable for so many, and your story and your voice is truly transformative. And I thank you for being such a powerful leader who is showing up in a truly authentic and genuine way. And I'm so grateful for today's conversation. I think I needed that.
Wow, thanks. I feel the same way. Like yeah, thank you, Valerie. I think just the fact that you had these like deep questions just means that you're very, I don't know, I like so personable, and it's so
Oh.
cool that you want to learn from all of these different people. I think that's like one of the most like wise things that somebody like, it's so wise. So yeah, and yeah, and I'm also really inspired by you, and I'm really happy for this podcast. I think this might be one of my favorite ones. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. There is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.